Hey, welcome back to a No Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy on Shop Talk Tuesday. If it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, well, Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, welcome to my annual Tuesday just jibber jabber, which is basically in the title. Well, not the title. Well, it is the title, kind of. Well, anyway, in the thumbnail. And here we talk about shop stuff from bike shop perspective. Well, again, welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out in the garage. Yes, this is a garage shop business. And if you have not seen me before, well, that's kind of weird, but in any case, you probably want to find me if you didn't see some of my stuff out there. But a lot of the latest current stuff or topics have been in the industry, but basically where I started from is starting this particular channel is doing tech stuff basically on older models and working on bikes of vintage and bringing them back to life, upcycling, everything that we're seeing in the industry and the market that we're running into in the last 5 years. Well, here we are. Yeah, it's Tuesday and we're going to talk about a couple bikes that I have on my stands, what I'm working on this week, that kind of thing. And, share some experiences. Feel free to throw something in the chat. I'll try to respond to them or jibber jabber amongst yourselves. It's awesome too. We usually get quite a few people to chime in. And yes, I put the title a little more shocking. It is and it isn't and it is. And we'll talk about that on the second half of the show. This is usually about a 2-hour stint. That's about as long as my bladder can hold out, being as aged as I am. And, the second half is about an hour from now. But we usually talk about 45 minutes or so about stuff in the shop that I'm working on. Currently, I'm working on a Jameis Durango. I got a truck over here to feature and another truck in the fitting area, which I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit because I think that's something that needs to be talked about a little bit more within the bike shop realm for bike shop people out there. Tony, hey, thank you for joining. Welcome to the Shop Talk Tuesday, and hopefully we'll talk about a few things that will enlighten you as a cyclist, encourage you as a bike mechanic, and overall perspective of having hopefully a happier glow about your cycling community. That's what it's really all about. And thank you for joining me because it takes you to make this channel work, and it has been successful. It is today, so that's great. Joe, hey, thank you for jumping in. Must be Tuesday. That's right. Bike shop chat, jibber jabber, whatever you want to put it, whatever language you want to put it. I only know 2 languages, English and bad English, so therefore I'm that typical mechanic. In any case, thank you for Joe. I know you're up in Canada. Hopefully it's warming up a little bit in your neck of the woods. Thank you for looking in from the outside into our hot mess of whatever you want to call it. But we're going to try not to talk about that too much today. Kind of get a little burned out about that. But trying to be more positive. Today it is sunny. I do have the garage door open, even though it's in the 40s degrees Fahrenheit. My basically a Colorado thick blood-ish. Decided to go with a short sleeve t-shirt, and later it's one of those particular moments in Colorado where you have a jacket, sweatshirt, and then all of a sudden you're in, by the end of the day, t-shirts, short, and flip-flops because it's just we're supposed to be in the 70 degrees Fahrenheit today, and it's going to be a nice day to go for a ride. Not as windy, no cloud cast, that kind of thing. That's your local forecast of the Colorado weather. And I want to talk about weather too, and I'll be kind of on the second part of this because how weather affects business. That is a big thing within retail, and I definitely want to touch upon that, which we're actually on the cusp here in the Colorado market, going to get slammed. And it won't be good for retail, outdoor retail specifically. So in any case, I'll talk about that a little bit here in any case. Hopefully you're hearing me okay. Upgraded the platform, so you should be able to see me a little bit better as well. Now I'm going live at the same time on Facebook. That was kind of the encouraging piece of it. I'm doing a lot more interviews. Hey, Rick, thank you for joining us at Shop Talk Tuesday. Here we are. Oh, it's getting nice in the mid-south. Yeah, temperatures, it's April, right? It's supposed to be getting a little bit nicer in certain areas and a lot more riding going on. We got a lot more people questioning about service and getting their bikes ready for the season, if not already, that kind of thing. And parts have been selling People doing kind of preventative or not preventative. Um, Basically, they're getting upgrades on their bikes like wax chains, that kind of thing. That is a service I do provide. It is in my website. I know a guy bicycles.com. So if you don't know much about me, well, I'm like an onion. There's so many different layers of this guy. It started off as a small business in the garage, refurbishing road bikes, people getting into road riding. And then COVID hit, then everything went weird. So I'm, in the last 5 years, I think I've hit every high and low you can. I think a lot of us have within every perspective of business, if you're a business shop owner or whatever field you're in. And it's been a ride. But in any case, yeah, I do have a website. I do sell used parts, used frames. I do have a wax service as well as pre-wax new chains that are ready to go from ConX, and we can talk about that. I talked about that last week or a week before, so we won't dive into that too much. I'll come out with a feature video about why ConX chains are kind of cool. Something to think about if you're looking about updating your drivetrain, that kind of thing. I will touch upon it on the second bike that I have on the stand here and why it's here and those kinds of things. So in any case, getting all coffeed up. Hopefully it's caffeinated day for you too, and thank you for joining us. Yeah, the topic I put on there like as a title is we're talking about Canyon. That's part of the Bicycle Retailer Brain article that just came out last night. A little bit of note on that, then REI and what I've been seeing with REI for the last couple of years. What that company has been kind of changing. And I've seen these kind of moves before within other bike manufacturers as well as companies. Within the 35 years of being in the cycling world. So Tim, if you're watching, yeah, once I refer to the 35 years, he likes to tell me to take a shot of something. But anyway, shot of reality. So and then what I put on there, Scott, was another release note that one of the other GC Performance. He did a little talk about the Scott bikes. They also do skis and snowboards. So you either know one or the other, like, oh, Scott, I'm not talking about the skis, right? Or you're talking about the bikes. It's the same company. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. And the shift that's going on. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we want to talk about tools. Yeah, it was kind of like one of the comments. And I want to go back home to the, grassroots of the YouTube videos I was doing. It was more featuring older bikes and tools and that kind of thing. One of the comments in one of the last videos I did is like, great tool wall. Let's talk about the tool wall. Every shop has a tool wall, right? Or maybe not. Some shops have kind of inverted their tools into drawers. I worked in one shop that made it kind of cool looking that way. I don't know. I personally like seeing it and reaching it instead of pulling out each drawer to try to find whatever it is. But that's kind of how my efficiency works for me. And then again, there's a couple different tool walls. I do have a couple different tool walls, and I'm in preparation of making a fourth tool wall. Believe it or not, I'm expanding. Yeah, costly, of course, because tools are not cheap. But in any case, a tool wall is something. This was cabinets at one point. I snagged a whole bunch of cabinets from a construction dumpster dive scenario, and this was full of cabinets at one point. And I was like, oh, I can't have just cabinets here. I need to do some. If I'm going to be working on bike stuff, I move the cabinets. Now they're in the shed, whatever. So this has been like the 18th iteration of tool wall expansion. It did only go to about here at first. You can still see me. Then I expanded it another 3 feet or so, and then flipped it. I have about the same amount of wall space on the other side of the garage where I have more of the fitting kind of area. And I'm going to talk about that and what the importance of that is in a bike shop realm, and also when you're looking for a bike shop to do business with. But in any case, tool walls are definitely something that's it's fun to talk about, because who doesn't like tools, right? And you got to have the right tool for the job to do the job right. I don't know where I heard that, but anyway, I may have just made it up. In any case, corny dad jokes all day. Dad jokes loading all day. So you don't have to, starting right off, you don't have to buy the expensive blue or expensive red to run a shop or do any of your own work. That's kind of where it gets elevated, where you're starting to do stuff full time, in the sense that you're working on multiple bikes a day or every other day. That's where it comes into play, where it's a good idea to have. And not everything. It doesn't have to be everything. So you don't have to pony up all the big bucks to get all those tools. And we'll talk about that in a second here. But what you're seeing behind you is a lot of blue. And if you know about the car industry, or there's two main brands that you'll see out there. If you've ever walked into somebody's garage, you saw Craftsman tools. They're still around. They're being sold. They used to be sold at Sears. They're no longer. I think they're still at Home Depot in the States and maybe Lowe's as well. So that's one brand. And the other brand is the more elite tools is Snap-on. That was like the craze of the nice. And I do have a couple Snap-on tools. And believe it or not, these are 25, 30 years now old. The logos are all worn off. But my dad, this Snap-on truck guy, would stop by Parker Bikes once in a while, and we probably paid way too much for these back in the day, but holy crap, I've had these for 30 years, or yeah, close to, and they still work fine. And the funny bit about this is with the Park tool 4-pack that you get, these two sizes are the ones in between that I do generate go to the Phillips quite a bit to fit certain pieces of modern or modern-ish bikes. So there lies the conversation about tools, right? So Park Tools is the Snap-on-ish as well as Feedback Sports. And Feedback is, this red brand here kind of thing. This is the scale I got. The Park makes the same thing. They're probably made in the same factory wherever. But in any case, got a mix. Got a couple Pedro pieces in there. They still make a nice kit. Like any of these upper end companies, they'll have a pro kit, which is hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You don't need to go there unless you have more dollars and cents and you have, you're lucky enough to be able to throw money at it. But quite honestly, there's a toolkit. I don't have it here. I'm in my shed where I got to the point where I do enough events where I have a whole set of tools, which are not the high grade tools, but tools that work good enough. And they're compiled with some extra parts and so forth, and work stands for doing events like the Bike MS or charity rides and that kind of thing. So I don't have to rob my wall every time to go do those events. So if you're a shop, you'll eventually get a second set of tools just for doing those events and that kind of thing. Makes it a little bit easier. But there's a toolkit. It's like Bike Hand, I think it is. It's a generic name. Also, it's white labeled founders from Jensen's USA. And you'll find a link in the description below of Jensen's to an affiliate link there. And that's where I've got a lot of these tools from, especially the Parks and so forth. And the kits, I've purchased those over the years. Reason why Jensen's? Well, mainly the price, and they usually gave me a coupon discount, which on you see those coupons like $15 on one regular price item. Park tools hardly ever go on sale, so therefore that 15% really helps knock it down. I don't have a wholesale license. Wholesalers will not sell to a guy in a garage. Basically, they're stuck in the 80s and they have not woke up to the modern age of business and how bike shops are functioning now. And yeah, I have business license, insurance, and everything. Everything is a bike shop. I pay taxes, all that. Everything is a bike shop, but I don't have the brick and mortar store. So they need to have that sign in a brick and mortar retail location to make you a dealer. Well, they need to change their ways. After the show I went to at CABDA, I talked to a couple of them, and one gave me a hard line. Nope, we don't do that. The other one was like, oh, we'll look into it. And the third one was like, oh, we might be able to work out something for you. And it really gave me the no warm and fuzzy, like at all. So nothing against them, but hey, I can still do business, and apparently my money is not good enough for them. oddly enough. Anyway, side anger soapbox on that. But back to tools. I did pay retail for them, and the reason why Jensen's worked real well. Jensen's used to be a wholesaler back in the day, but now they sell direct to the customer. So you don't have a couple layers of people to mark up the price. So if you're buying from a bike shop, I hate to say it to knock at the bike shops, but yes, they're the competition to a lot of brick and mortar stores. But that's nothing new. That's been going on since like the 80s from Performance. So bike shops should know how to work their business around that. But as a bike shop garage person, I buy the tools from Jensen's or from other places when I find the discounts and that kind of thing. And therefore, for me, I did splurge on some nicer, ratcheting, box wrench, which I didn't really need to do. Back in the day, we had a whole set of these, and I don't use these hardly nearly as much because that's where the ugly turn of bike tools have changed in the last 10 to 15 years. They've gone away from standard to highly specific to what it is. That's the severe pain in the butt of working on bikes now, because there's a big shift about 15 years ago, and when the cycling industry decided to go towards the auto industry of making bikes more complicated, as well as componentry, SRAM, Shimano, everybody else in between decided to make their own specialty fitting bottom brackets and headsets and all these weird different things, from BB90 bottom brackets to no longer standard threaded, and shells to press fit everything. And we're not even talking about suspension yet. I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms when it comes to tools. So I did update my torque wrench from parts, which the torque wrench itself was around $100. And each of the damn fittings that go to all the various more 10-year bottom bracket fittings and a couple other bits was about a $25 to $30 lift per tool. So you're talking something coming out $250 just to be able to adjust and take bottom brackets in and out. And that's not considering press fit, when you have to have certain tools like this to pop bearings out, and then another tool like so. This is a headset one, but this is a park tool like here, which puts you back a few hundred when you get those. So quite honestly, you don't have to buy into their cool. It's nice to have, believe me. When you have the nicer tools to use them, if you use them quite a bit, it's nice to have them. But there's a whole layer of tools that are out there where they're not as expensive. They're basically knockoffs. They work just as good, and the thing is they're about the fraction of the cost. So therefore, I'd suggest getting one of those inexpensive kits if you're starting off, like the bike hand or the one from Jensen's. Founders is the brand that their house brand, which is the white label, same thing. And that gives you a good assortment of cone wrenches and chain and bottom bracket and that kind of thing. And you start working on your bikes, and if you find a tool that you're using quite a bit more than the rest, then you can pony up and pay for the more expensive tool. That's what I suggest. That's how the process of purchasing tools. So I wanted to go through the first layer of how to get the damn tools, why you get the tools, and what should be your philosophy behind it. If you're already a bike shop person, you kind of already gone through this process, and you've already kind of bought certain sets and that kind of thing, and you've seen tools wear out if you've been working on them quite a bit, and then certain ones wear out faster than others for whatever reason they're being used for. So in any case, cool. A couple shout outs here. Fulby Gaming. Oh, I'll just call you Gaming because I can pronounce that. Sorry. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you jumping in. And let's see here. Randy, thank you for coming back. Oh, you missed last week? Oh, thank you for watching on the replay. Hopefully the ads were not too annoying. I don't turn on the ad thing until I'm done with this, because I had people who were like, it was two problems. It was like cutting in, and honestly, I'm a bike mechanic, so I don't know how all that stuff works and how annoying it can be. In any case, but thank you for watching the replay. Hopefully, if you have any thoughts on last week's show, definitely throw them in the comments below, and we'll talk about that. Then this is if you're just joining us, this is just a Shop Talk Tuesday, free for AMM, you ask me anything kind of thing. Enjoy the people that some people in the chat have been in the industry as well, and some people are just avid cyclists, or they're just tinkerers, and they like to work on their own bikes and that kind of thing. So it's a community based of all perspectives of that, just basically a cycling community piece based out of the garage, which this is a garage shop. Ooh, I feel a little cool breeze from the springtime coming in. Yeah. So if you see goosebumps, you'll know why. It's a little bit chillier outside. I think it's 46 degrees. It's warming up a little bit. It's supposed to hit to 70. So first part of this, we're talking about the tools. And we're going to talk about a couple of bikes that I have in the stand and the trainer over there. And so that's the perspective of tools. And what you want to do with the bike too. What's your skill set, or how far you want to go down that rabbit hole of working on anything from, exploding a hub, or taking a cassette off, taking, derailleur jockey pulleys off, how far you want to go. One main tool you don't see here, but it's over by the shop scene. It's called ultrasonic cleaner. That's been a game changer for a lot of bike shops, because it cuts down the time of cleaning specific tools. It has a heating element. It's less, you can use non-aggressive chemicals. The shop cleaning tanks back in the day were they'd have to be flushed out by a professional service, and I swear I probably lost a few years of my life inhaling those fumes, and definitely layers of skin. Even though I had gloves on, it's kind of like when you walk up like a mad scientist with big rubber gloves working on parts. That didn't seem, it was not right. Well, the ultrasonic cleaner, you can just use a simple green or a lighter, and then dilute it too with just hot water, or you can just try it with hot water. So I have a video in my library on ultrasonic cleaner that's more current. Check that out if you want to see how those particular tools. It's from Beaver, the one I got currently. But if you're going to spend money, that's probably a good one, because it cleans, it just makes your life a lot easier. And you don't have to get the bigger one. I got the 15-liter one because I want to be able to put cranksets in them, size of this. But you can just do, if you're just doing cassettes and chains and that kind of thing, you can get the smaller one and just do that kind of thing. It'll cut your cost down. And plus, it's smaller, that kind of thing. So ultrasonic cleaner, it's probably one of the ones that are probably one of the better tools to invest in, kind of thing. But the rest of these guys, you can use any kind of scissors. You don't have to have the special park scissors, but it's nice. For me, kind of selfishly did it on purpose, was when I was building up my shop originally and refurbishing bikes. I wanted to have something that looked professional, and obviously when you have your tools all matched, that kind of thing, I wanted to have that little bit of a wow factor, when oh wow, you really do have a shop here, kind of thing. So that was deliberate. Case in point, that's framed out with bead board, with metal pegboard, so really blinged out. I did get lighting, which I haven't done it yet, to trace the backing and have backlight, so really make it, that's like the studio. This has been transforming into a studio more so in the last year because of YouTube and everything else. But that's the tools. And I have I have a polishing kit over here because I do frame detailing and so forth. I got the wax mess going on right here. I just finished waxing yesterday a batch of chains, repair chains, as well as some new ones. And then I have, the specialty tools, and it kind of just keeps going. And then I have my little sit-down shop center over there. Anyways, long-winded. Yes, Randy, you have the valid point. I've talked about that before. Fail points. Okay, let's dive right into that, because how to get the tools, what kind of layer of tools, how expensive. I kind of explain that. Start off light and polite and go up if you're just starting out. If you've already been in the industry, you know what you know, and you're just going to get what you're going to get, right? But if you're looking into tools and arrangement of tools, okay, this is a whole science behind it, and this is really kind of a customization of your own shop and what you do. Because if you're doing one specific kind of bike quite a bit, or you have a rack of bikes and you do mostly road and gravel, you're going to have those specific tools that fit that particular bike most. And you have like it's like a heat map, right? So to be efficient, and being a mechanic is all about being efficient, especially when you're a production mechanic. Been that for several years, where you're turning and burning and doing everything you can to be as efficient as possible, to work on bikes, to get them out, because most of the time you're paid on commission. So that's the thing. It's like, oh, okay, the base pay ain't gonna pay any bills, so I got to bust out 5 or 6 repairs a day. By doing that, you got to have an efficient tool wall. That's one of the key things that helps. For me, it's just it's just nice to have when you're working on something. And I have a 6-foot wingspan, so I can really reach out different areas and pick what I need to get, that kind of thing. That's how your tool wall needs to work, from the center of your work stand to your tool wall or drawers or however you have it laid out. And you're going to have your most hot used tools here. And then they expand out to ones that are more specialty or niche, maybe once in a while, or they just don't fit anywhere else. And then you get further away. I put guess what? I'm putting my DAG tool, it's more towards the back. Well, where the heck I am most of the time is right here. So it's an arm's reach of the back of the bike, that kind of thing. And I got my files, punches, picks, and my Allens, and the chain tools, cable cutters, and all that kind of thing are right here. This is what I use about 90% of the time on any given day. And then when you're looking at like really weird tools, like 1-inch headset adjuster, box wrench, that's going to be way over here, out of the way. And I got my lubes and cleaners, and screwdrivers are in there too. And then I got this fancy little bit thing that holds my bits and the bottom bracket pieces with my torque wrenches on it, which is kind of cool. So that was kind of a featured piece. But that's how you kind of arrange your tools. Well, and that's where, if you arrange your tools, and you'll notice your first couple go-arounds of working on bikes, and they're like, oh, I need this to be a little bit closer. Why am I constantly reaching across, and that kind of thing? The efficiency, and there's stats on this. I mean, the efficiency, you can, reach, time, and all that equation equals to, spending more time on the bike itself, not just looking for that tool. And that puts me back in the 90s. I mean, I remember I had to have this one socket thing, which was this thing. And then if I didn't have this one, I would walk around the whole shop looking for this one, which I could have easily gone and grabbed the 8mm box wrench, which is sitting right there, instead of doing. So, it's kind of like changing your behavior as well as arranging your tool wall. Behavior is one thing for sure, and then when tools have kind of outdated themselves, like box wrenches are not as big. Cone wrenches sometimes are, but that's a little bit further away. And then when you're looking at like hammer, but the cassette lock room movers, that's here because that's where the cassette piece is, so it's arm reach. But when you get further away, I have a bench over there that's piled with a whole bunch of older specific antique tools, where I'm in the process of clearing a space of a wall on the back of my garage here, where it used to be just hanging bikes and this random crap. And I'm now going to eventually, throughout the course of the summer, make a bead wall and get more metal peg. And then I'm going to have a Campy tool wall set, classic box, and as well as some featured old park tools for bending steel frames and so forth. And that's where that's going to live. It's more than fine to be further away, because I'll probably only use those, if ever, once a year, every other year. So that's where, that's how far the importance of it. And going to Randy's point is, there's a good chance that the tools that you use the most are going to wear out the fastest. And you may not really understand the wear out of a tool. Because I mean, how many of you guys have been in shops for a long time that have had cone wrenches, and these get boogered up, and you just take them to your vise and pound them flat again and just go back at it. All of us have done that. And it's stamped steel. I mean, they're nice from Park, but any other brand, it's the same thing. So you kind of just work around it. Well, the one tool that I have multiple of, and I have a higher quality ones over and beyond the Park, because the Park makes decent ones, but also The tricky bit, we're going to talk about Allen sets, the matrix Allen sets, these guys, in the fancy box. There's a lot of the bikes, most of the bikes have Allen bolts on it somewhere. And the higher end it gets, the more dainty those damn bolts are. They're either made out of aluminum, soft aluminum, or whatever the case may be. And usually it's more expensive because they're just cutting out weight. And when you look at that as a professional perspective of working on bikes, the higher end it is, the more precise tool you're going to need to make sure that you don't F it up. Because if you mess that up, you're all of a sudden you're buying a $600 part on a tune-up that you're only going to charge $200. So you want to make sure you don't, basically you're covering your butt. Allen sets is one of those ones that you may not realize that you'll wear the Allen down, and you can probably, I'll show you here on these, it's not totally worn down, but you can see the discoloring on the tips. That's going to show you the wear marks, and then all of a sudden they'll start flanging, and they don't contact that bolt clean enough where, you know, on the bigger Allens you can probably do fine. This is a brake bolt, but when you're looking at like the really small ones, you know, like even the cleat ones that get, you know, really muddled, and then you got like the bottle cage ones or the rack mount ones, which will go down to a 2 or a 2.5, and they're usually out of aluminum. They're not a hardened alloy or a hardened metal. So when you have that particular one, and especially it's on high end, you better have a better Allen to fit that. Okay, this is no plug for Silka, but if you watch any Josh's videos, I don't know how much Kool-Aid he's spewing, but you know, he has like, oh, we have high tide tolerances, and it's a little more, just a little bit, you know, a little tighter. So therefore, I bought a set of these. It ran me like 30 or 40 bucks. Got it on sale. And you'll find these like at Jensen's. There's a link in the description below. And, you know, these are only used on those specific, you know, questionable, oh, I don't really muff it up, Allen heads. And this also has the Torx to it. So when you're doing like disc brakes and so forth, I pulled this out because you got all the, like, I'm gonna have to do it on here too when I do the Tektros. And I leave these, I don't use these daily, I use these on special event type of situation. Not events when I go out in the field, but you know, specialty bikes where I want to make sure I have the right tool, the right fitting tool as possible. Make sure I don't mess up any of the small little screws and so forth. Okay, a 30, 40, 50, even $100 investment is going to save your butt down the road if you're working on bikes or even on your own, because when you mess something like this up, you're in a world of hurt and it's going to cost you a lot more. So therefore, I have this style of Allen set, which is the premium, tighter tolerances from Silka. You know, Silka has some really good quality stuff out there, but it is expensive. It's kind of like your Mercedes or Porsche tools, you know, it's like that kind of thing. But then I do have a Parks little tray stand here, tree, and this has your, you know, bigger, you know, I'm gonna grab it hard and really force it, ball in, and the ball in Allens, keep in mind, are not designed to torque or unloosen. They're just help you guide those bolts into place. So there's a little side note on that. And then, you know, the super professional, you do the finish off the bits, you use your torque wrench there, which I have mine from Parks, but you can use other brands. And then I have those various popular fittings for those particular ones that you want to torque all those bolts, especially if you're dealing with carbon bikes and that kind of thing. Precision e-bike, thank you for joining me. I like the Blue Point. Yeah, it's pretty, but it's not necessary. Yeah, Snap-on, you know, Snap-on's really nice stuff. And yeah, they do hardened steel. They have hardened steel. I mean, you are paying for, I mean, they do put, I mean, they're known. I mean, come on, they're NASCAR tool of choice. I mean, they, you know, they are at that high level of performance in the, you know, car racing, and, you know, so all their stuff has to, hit those quality tolerances and all that. So you can't really go wrong, but you'll lose a lot of weight out of your wallet if you do that. So you want to make sure that kind of thing. Yeah, 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 Randy, you got a point there. You don't want to strip out a $1 Allen screw on a $10,000 bike. I mean, that's where I would say I mean, to be brutally honest, because I have no Kool-Aid, I have no brands that I have to, they are basically making mechanics nightmares on those higher end bikes, quite honestly, because they lighten it up. If you don't do the torque specifications or read or watch all their videos of install, especially in the last 5 years, you could easily mess something up, and then it's costing you tons down the road. Even though you've been working on bikes for a long period of time, you can easily mess it up as much as a new person just started last week. So those are the kinds of things that it really kind of chaps my hide, because the back in the day, like in the 90s, I mean, Dura-Ace was really nice stuff, but it was more like durable. And the frames are, nice stuff, and it's durable. They got away from durable and went super uber light and went up to 10 grand. And it's kind of like they're disposable in a very horrible way. I mean, it's just, they were not, I mean, a lot of the parts manufacturers, they only warranty the stuff for like a year or two. And once they get past that warranty, they're like, whoo, on to the next mess up thing they're going to dive into. So, especially in the super high end stuff. And I've seen that over the years. So case in point, having making sure you have the right tool. And if you have any question, or you're like questioning, like, I don't know if I really want to dive into that, pay the little extra price to have a bike mechanic at a shop do that, because either they have more experience at doing those specific weird things or high-end things. And that's where a risk, where a lot of people, when they have that $5,000 bike, are not, I'm not going to touch that, because it's, one, overly complicated, and second, there's a lot of specialty tools, and number three, I don't have the time to learn how to. I mean, well, put it this way: if you make enough money and you have a job that makes you enough money to afford that $5,000 to $10,000 bike, you probably don't have time other than riding your bike, and also you probably have the means to pay for the mechanics to work on those things, so you probably don't care. So there's a whole little weird ecosystem, which I don't see very much of, but hey, whatever. They're out there. Apparently, PC or GC Performance down in Florida has a very high niche market. So that's what he talks about, which is kind of cool. But I don't know. It is his own thing. But yeah, tool walls. And this is always in change. It always, every 3 months I move some stuff around. Every year I don't take everything off, but I kind of do a shift of what needs to be done and what needs to be placed to be a little bit better. But in any case, Brad, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Oh, you have the Silica HE1 kit. Yeah, nice. Oh yeah, that the box. I was gonna get that, but this had, I don't know, I cheaped out-ish. Still paid, but not paid as much. The wood teak box is kind of cool, but I don't think it came with the, I don't think it came with all the Torx. Did it come with all the Torx too? Did it have all of these? Like, you got the Torx up front, you got the Allens in the back. Well, it had those fittings. Fittings to me are a way of just losing something. But that's me. I mean, I drop things and they disappear forever. They find a different dimension and they're gone. That's where I have rubber mats underneath me now. Got those like super cheap at Harbor Freight here in the States, and they weren't too expensive. I thought they'd last a season, but I'm on the 4th season now. And yeah, a couple of them were kind of dirty or whatever, but they've held up, and they're not super dense, so you don't feel like you're losing too much energy when you're walking around on them, but it does give you a little extra comfort there. But what's really nice is when that bolt hits the floor, it doesn't hit something hard and shoot off like 20 feet away. It kind of isolates those pieces, so it's a little bit easier to find. I'm not saying better to find, well, a little bit better to find, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Anybody had dropped any of those micro bolts from shifters, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how horrible that is. And then you're like, and they're very, especially on old Durace, there's one specific bolt that's flanged, but it's super small, goes in a cover, and that cover is not on there. That shifter don't work. So if that bolt is lost, you're, yeah, boy, that's a whole thing. They only did that for like 2 years, thank God, and they went away from there. I had two of them, very nice and full size Torx. Torx bits. Oh, okay. It has a little bit of a little bit of difference. Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen the teak box ones, but I just never really dived into it. So yeah, that's where you kind of grow your tool wall. Everybody has. I mean, you work on cars, you do woodworking, whatever you do. That's your famous thing. Joe, if you're still on, you probably have. He makes paddles for canoeing and that kind of thing. So I'm sure his shop has a whole bunch of woodworking tools that are specifically for that. For case in point, he probably has a methodology of his tool also. Over here, you can't see, I have a little wheel truing methodology. It's like I have its own little set of tools for, spoke wrenches and tensioner and gauges and all that. And that's where I have my disc rotor bender tool, that kind of thing. We got all those things going on, right? So yeah. And my waxing kit's right here because I do other things while I'm waxing. I kind of feel like it lives here. It may move somewhere else. It's a mess. I need to start putting cardboard underneath it when I do it because the shit splatters and it's a mess. Cable cutters is another one. These little bastards will wear out on you, and before you know it, I have a really nice one that I only use a few times here and there, mainly to crimp the housing fittings, the cable endings. And then I've had really good luck with the Pedro's one. This is the general one to cut the housing and some of the cables. So that's one. Also a good chain tool. You always want to have a good chain tool that has the proper flange bits to do multiple speed chains. And this is a funny one. Is that coming out? This looks antique, but it's just dirty. This is from Wrench Force. And if anybody's been in the industry for more than 20 years, Wrench Force used to be a tool line that Trek was making, which is a company that was white labeling the Wrench Force tools. Not all the tools, but some of the tools were made by Snap-on. Let that sink in. So yeah, Snap-on had the game in tool making under the label of Wrench Force for Trek. So kind of cool. That actually is held up for multiple years and multiple chains. And I just get, the bits are not the original. I had to switch out the bits. Park Tools makes a really good park tool, of course Park Tool, chain breaker that you can change the bits. And be mindful, some of those bits are speed specific. So you want to be, not one does everything, unfortunately. So if you're doing multiple chains from 8-speed, 7-speed, up to 12-speed, now 13-speed, I think they're going to go, then you have to have a right one that drives out. But the flip side of it, the chain companies have switched from the push pin through to reinstall chain, like the stupid Shimano Hyperglide pin that they used to do, and you break off and half the time you mess up the plates anyway, to either the Quick Link, Power Link, ConX Link, whatever link you want to call link. And that now is changed to the plier style. And believe me, do not try to use needle nose pliers to do this job, because these things are grooved perfectly to put on or take off those removable links. So invest in the $15 tool to change those out, because it'll make it a little bit easier and not damage the plating on it. Shimano and also SRAM say their quick links or power links are only a one-time use, which is, as every mechanic would say, super stupid. Most of us, if not all of us, have reused them multiple times, and that is not the weakest part of the chain. Goes to the saying, if the chain is only strong as the weakest link, that is definitely not the case. Granted, I'm sure there's some things out there, but basically it's to cover their behind scenario, because apparently they don't trust their quick link power link to hold up over multiple usages. So therefore, you want to make sure you have the right tool to do it, because they're probably thinking somebody with power pliers is going to try to do it. There's a fix for that, though. Here's a little gold nugget for all of you guys. And we'll talk about that right now after I take a sip of coffee. Oh, oh, Randy, you had some wrench force. That's probably the only one that's left over from my kit that I had. Everything else is worn out. I think I had a wrench force. I think either got, that's where those tools get kind of, yeah, they got retired. In other words, put in a box of tools that go out to the events that, if they get lost or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me, just a couple comments here. Brad, always admired. Oh, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I was pretty proud of it when I did that. Oh, the Christmas card. Oh, yeah, that a Christmas. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What are you talking about? A Christmas card? Oh, it's better to send a Christmas. Yeah. Yeah, some of the tools do cross over to motorcycles, but not all. Yeah. Let's see here. Water Tank, thank you for joining me. Joining us here. It's a community. We're talking about tools right now. We'll talk about industry stuff in a little bit here. And yeah, I did a kind of a clickbait intro, just, not intro, but title, just for fun to get people, more intrigued. We'll talk about that and my little insights. And it's all opinion piece, of course. It's not, it's one of those perspective things. We'll talk about that in here a little bit. Let's see here. Joe, you have plenty of cool tools. That's another thing too. You start collecting these tools and you're like, man, some of these are like, quality, like, one of those things like, I need to show that off and have it here. Like, well, I have a Campanoli wine bottle opener. I don't think they have belongs on this wall, but that's kind of like concept of like, awness, and you want to, show them off kind of thing. And when you're a shop, you do what you want to do. You can. People have always been kind of impressed of the tool wall. They're very impressed of the sit-down table with the bicycles part stools, that kind of thing. So it's got to have a little bit of style. My dad was really into style. I got to have some style with it. So here I am trying to add a little style. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Joe's talking about. Oh, you ordered up a new park stand? Shortly when I worked on the bikes. Yeah, park and feedback for folding up stands are usually the two that are really good. There's some knockoffs or a Beaver. I did a feature on a Beaver one. It was like $50 for a Beaver one, which is not bad. It was okay. That's if you only work on a bike maybe like once a month kind of thing. But if, like Joe, I know you work on your bikes a little bit more, so you're going to want something a little more sturdier. I started this business on a feedback stand, which was basically labeled Ultimate before it became a feedback brand. And it worked well for like the first season or two. And I had it for years, so it took a licking and it kept on ticking. And I used it for events too, which I have a sort of feedback repairs, foldable repair stands for my events. A couple years back, I was like, okay, we're going to get rid of all these junky ones and get a nice set for my guys to do these events. Because, they're out there volunteering their time. They all have different jobs now. They just like hanging out, having a weekend. So I figured you need to have some nice stuff. So I got some nice stuff one year, and feedback stands were one thing that I got for us to use, and they've held up really well, and they always held up well too. So investing in that level. Then you got these guys, which is like the park professional stands, and they're uber expensive. You might be able to find some on the used market and retrofit some pieces. They may need some new bits put on them. But yeah, you're still, this one cost me still, on the used market, it cost me around $400. Then the new ones are up in about 1,000 or 2,000. Then you got what Precision E-Bike has. Yeah, I'm so jealous of what you got. He has the power lift one with the, goes up and goes down. There's a couple different brands of those now, and you kind of have to have those with e-bikes, so you're not breaking this thing that holds your head up, that spine kind of thing. So that's where that really helps, and I might have to get one of those at some point, but they're really expensive. And the first time I saw one of those was about 10 years ago. No, about 10 years ago. And that was one of the first ones, and it was kind of funny. It was at a high-end triathlon store. They do tri-bikes. I'm like, you don't need this for tri-bikes. You need this for the really heavy things. But now they're really, really good. Ooh, they're $5,000. Ooh, yeah, pricey. Worth it though, if you figure it saves you one medical, maybe two medical expenses going to the ER because you mess something up permanently in your back. $5,000 is cheap. If anybody's had any medical bills that had to work with. Oh, third-hand tools for some precision. Yeah, Josh. Yeah, I used to use those. I don't know. I don't have one. I use power strap or old toe straps from back in the day. These guys. You know, every time I get a bike that has some old pedals on it, I snag those because those are gold. Use those for bleeding brakes and various other multiple different things for sure. On that. Yeah. All right. Oh yeah, elbows. Well, all bits. I mean, I hit the 50. I'm like 54 now. So once you get to that age, everything hurts at various parts of the day. It's like even getting out of bed to what popped. Why is this twinging? And then when you add lifting up bikes and you torque something in your hand, you're like, why does that hurt for a week? So you know, anything you can to make it safer to work on bikes, safer on you. And it's a lot of, especially if you do higher volumes of repetitive motion. So therefore it can cause some damage over long term. That's why I have padded underneath, because underneath that's concrete. And I've worked on top of concrete for decades, from big bike shops to running around a big five sporting goods store, which is, you do about 5 miles of walking around. And I killed my feet. And with that company, they were super stupid because they were a sporting goods store, but they made us dress professional dress. In other words, we had dress shoes, dress shirt, tie. Super stupid. They've changed their dress code since then, since I left. Now you got to have a beard and longer hair and whatever. But they were really clean cut when I started working for them. And I'm pretty sure that kind of messed my knees up a little bit. After 8 years of walking around on concrete floors for 5 to 10 miles a day when working for them. Yeah, way to go, Randy. Keep the tools turning. 57. Yeah, I don't plan on slowing down. I mean, I'm slowing down. Let's say I don't plan on quitting doing what I'm doing. It's more if I can just trickle it out a little less intense. That's my game plan. And I'm doing pretty good so far on that. Okay, we're coming up on time. So I need to breeze through real quick what I'm working on. I got a Durango mountain bike here, and let's get you a little better shot here. And with this Durango mountain bike, it's older, 2001-ish, probably, somewhere around there. Tektro mineral oil V-brakes. This is something I just picked up for like $100 with a combination buy of bikes. They had 2 road bikes. And I was like, okay, we just went out of the garage. So it's one of those deals that I got pretty inexpensively. And I could probably part it out and make 3 times more money, but it's a 26er, and it'll be a great little bike for somebody. Ultrasonic cleaners are really good at cleaning out these guys. Other trick is just using scalding hot water and flush it out. That'll get that old grease out. But ultrasonic combination with that and ultrasonic cleaner really gets these to come back to life. So I've gotten several of those to come back to life. It has a Dior, which is your mid-range componentry, which is pretty decent with a triple. So if anybody wants a triple with disc brakes, that kind of thing, with front suspension, this would be pretty cool. But what I'm doing to it is I cleaned it up, polished it. I mean, not super detailed because it does have a lot of scratches and buffed up parts. But I did put a ceramic coating on it for protection as well as the parts. But the wheels turned out pretty immaculate. So clean those up. So this is going to be a good, solid bike for somebody. to do some recreational riding. And the chain was actually wasn't stretched, so when I was waxing chains, I went ahead and waxed it too. So I've already went through the little shedder on it, so the chain on there. Oh yeah, forgot. I skipped over the secret chain. The secret chain is called ConX. ConX is a German brand, German steel chain, and they do have their own removable link. What's really cool about their removable link is it's reusable. As we were talking about Shimano and SRAM, we're like, nope, only use it one time. The removable link from ConX is this guy. And the other beautiful feature of it is you don't need a chain tool to take those on and off. I'll just use this chain. This is a cool one that was gifted to me. Still sticky from the manufacturing grease packaging. It's not a good lube. It's okay lube. Okay, so ConX is a German brand, German steel, various different levels. They do make e-bike specific chains, so they're going to be a little more durable there. They're durable in the sense that, you know, they higher tolerances and so forth, a little bit better quality than Shimano and SRAM and KMC, which is the other ones. These are, you will not usually see these chains on OEM bikes, which means usually you see those like the cage. They find whatever the cheapest thing they can to put on the OEM bikes. Let's put it that way. We'll talk about that in a brief second here when we get to the truck I have on the stand here. But with these guys, see if I can get you to. Basically, you take your chain like this, and you fit the hole in there, and boom. That's all you do. And to take it off, you squeeze it together, and it comes right off. Just like that. Only thing you need to think of is when this rounded part here, that goes over the cog and the big chain ring. So that's the only thing. And if it's the other way around on that 11 tooth, it'll tick a little, make a little bit of noise, but that's just how easy it is. And you don't need a tool. And so if you're waxing your chains and you want to upgrade your chain or just upgrade your chain to a little bit nicer performance, a little bit stronger, durable chain, they cost a little bit more, but honestly, it's not a heavy lift as in Costco. And if you wax it, therefore you don't need that extra tool. And also you don't have to replace that. As well, as you can buy these individually, links. After the video, I'll put a link to the guy I buy the chains from. He's here locally in Fort Collins. He's a distributor. But you can buy these at aftermarket that will fit the SRAM and Shimano. So you can just buy it separately, the link, and then you can use your Shimano. And so you basically don't have to buy the whole ConX chain if you don't want to, that kind of thing. And they also come in lengths. I had a gentleman, he was in Boulder, and he had a bike that had a longer drivetrain, and he needed a 130 link chain, and he was asking to buy 2 of my 118 link chain. I was like, oh, let me look up, and I found ConX had the longer version of it, 138 link chain, so he only had to buy 1 chain instead of 2 and splice them together. So that's what he was doing before, and that's what his solution was. But if you not all the model of the chains have that longer option, but they do have 1 or maybe 2 in each speed. A lot of other brands will have that too. So keep mindful on that for chain awareness, that kind of thing. Oh, what is this? I have to hide that. Got somebody in there kind of scalping. Anyway, sorry about that. I didn't catch that in time. Still a Jameis. Oh, you're still a Jameis dealer. Nice. We were a Jameis dealer in the 90s. They made some good bikes and refurbished a few of them. They're pretty decent for sure. Let's see here. Yeah, it's like when we left, when Parker Bikes closed in 2001, I went to work at a Big Bad P store, performance bike, for like 3 months. And they carried a Jameis too, and they had like that, I think it's Durango Team model all displayed. It was really cool back in the day. But in any case, so yeah, that's what I'm doing on this guy. And you know, if I get $100 out of it or 150 with my time, hopefully it just goes to home. That's what I'm looking at there. Other thing I want to touch on is, this guy. This is a Marlin. Let me move a light so you can get a little look at it. Okay, the Marlin 6. Marlin 6, 2024 model. So I have a customer, a really good customer. They're in the process of trying to figure out what bike they want. They first had road bikes, but did some modifications to make them more upright and all that, and they rode those for a while. It didn't quite hit the mark. So they had me sell those, and then they bought a couple of e-bikes, and that didn't really quite fit the niche of their kind of riding style either. So they sold those, and then they bought these. And they rode these for like twice, and they still didn't hit the niche. So like, hey, can you sell these for us? So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll give it a go. Obviously, they'll be a little bit lower because our market's all weird and all that, but they're practically new. They are new. They have not seen dirt at all. But what I'm going to do, as like a shop refurbishing guy that I am, I'm going to clean out the frames. Well, I'm going to feature them on the video first. We're going to have a Marlin 6 review, 3rd gen, I think it is, and talk about the cues from Shimano, which kind of seems wiggly. I thought it maybe just this one, and I checked the other one. There's 2 of them, and same year and everything, just different size, different color. And I don't know. Well, we're going to do a little deep dive of how cheap is this. But anyway, it's your $900 MSRP bike kind of thing. But for me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to wax the chain. This is the chain's new, so I stripped it and waxed the chain. So I figured that'd be a nice elevated uplift. In addition to clean the frames off, since they have not been used in any really dirt, so it'd be really easy just to clean the frames, maybe a little bit of polishing, and kind of like I did on the other one, put a nice ceramic coating on it, sort of extra value to it. You see where I'm going with this? Like, okay, there's not much margin, but to ask for more margin in the used market, I'm like, oh, it comes with a wax chain, has a ceramic coated frame, and to detail those in my videos, a couple of those things, so that might add some more value to the bike when somebody purchases it from me, that kind of thing. So there's a footnote where somebody could use, if you have a shop, you can leverage those little, basically, little uplifts that you may have a service to a used bike that you're trying to resell, versus just like, here it is, I blew the dust off of it and it seems to be fine. Here's one of the big things that I've been pushing for the last, I would say, ever since I've been doing this, is fit. Fit is key, right? Everybody knows fit is the most important thing to buying a bike. And a lot of bike shops have stopped doing fittings. I do a standard static fit, right? It's put them on a trainer, right? This, you adjust this so they don't fly off. But first adjust the bike to the trainer, then you fit the person to the bike. So when I first refurbishing road bikes, this 5 years ago, and in my first test run, I fitted somebody. It wasn't this elaborate, but I still had a rear trainer, and I put them on it and did some adjustments on it, and they went on their way, and they're like, this is awesome. Well, first, it makes sure the bike is the right size for them. Second, all those little minor adjustments are done. Usually it takes care of about 90% of the people out there for just general fitting. And then it occurred to me, the static fit that we used to do back in the 90s for free on every bike that we sold, mainly to try to upsell like bottle cages and packs and so forth. So it was kind of like a way of having that conversation, and also teach them how to use the gears and so forth. But in today, I don't do resale items like that. So for me, it's not really for that purpose. It's really to make sure they have the best experience possible out of the gate. Well, that has become a whole business for bike shops, where they have bike sales, they have service, and then they have fitting. And fitting is definitely a generating of income, and the fittings they do provide are pretty elaborate. They have the cameras, the dots, the software, the training, and all that. There is a value to it. I'm not knocking that at all, but they need to bring back the static fit on everything that they sell, number one. Number two, you can apply that to your service department like I have. This was tuned up. That's part of my service package. That give you a little quick static fit, makes them more comfortable on the bike. Maybe there's a little adjustments, maybe they're not needed, but it's double checked for that added voted comfort. This person's had this bike when it was new. This is the 80s, Trek 500. Back in the day when they were making it in Wisconsin, and it has Reynolds tubing. We're gonna have a nice featured video on that later date. But this particular bike is solid. I mean, it tuned up really well, and she loves it. She doesn't want a newer bike. If she walked into any of the corporate stores today, they would told them like, oh, that's too old. We don't, number one, they don't work on it. Number two, you need to go buy another bike. It will definitely alienate that customer of what they have. I know it has happened, and not maybe to this person, but she was afraid to go to any bike shop to have it tuned up until she ran into me on the bike path by all places. And like, oh, you work on bikes? Like, oh yeah, this is an awesome bike. I'll definitely tune it up. She lit up. She was like, I'm going to take care of her baby, So therefore, I got a customer life. She's coming back. She's coming picking it up this afternoon after this, actually, this Shop Talk Tuesday. So we're going to go through the features, and if I can corner John Bradley, he was working for Trek back in the day on these things. So then again, here's my tool wall for just doing fittings. I got my general fitting tools here, replacement saddles, some stems down there, that kind of thing. So therefore, you added that service, right? You added that service more so than most shops will provide, makes you stand out. So if you're a smaller shop trying to compete against this whirlwind of nutso world going on, and against corporate stores and all that, that's an opportunity for you to stand out. A corporate store near me with the big T does not do fittings. They do an eyeball with an Allen, but they don't do any trainer fittings at all whatsoever. You imagine trying to buy a $5,000 bike and they just do anything like, oh, looks good. That's a vote of confidence for sure. Anyway, get off my soapbox on that one for sure. Any case. Oh, Michael, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Yeah, I got this little tray thing. I got to feature this. This is one of those tray deals that you put in front of your trainer bike, and I was like, this would be great for what I'm doing here. Also, I'm going to use it for extra little stand to put tools on when I'm working around a bike, when I get into, especially when you do like disc brakes and stuff like that and bleeding brakes. I just started following your channel. Insights. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, you also Foco, huh? Yeah, I wish I had known. Yeah. Yeah, I've been around. I worked at Lee Cyclery, which if you're from Foco, you know Lee Cyclery, which has now been bought by Trek Corporate. But yeah, and actually some of Lee's employees still work there at the Trek store. So I go and hang out with them a little bit and jibber jabber, catch up on the weird stuff. Usually when I have an issue, which actually I do have an issue over here on this one. I'll talk about that. But in any case, let's do a little sit down here and do my thing. So pardon me walking out of the screenshot there. Move the chain. This is where I should have a little, advertisement of whatever, maybe a funny promo of you need to get more coffee, hit the head, and then we can talk about other stuff. So this is the social media corner, I guess I'm going to call it, that kind of thing. There we go. Straighten you out so you're not feel like you're sliding to the left, sliding to the right. So these are other projects. So yeah, I just finished that Trek 500 last week. Pretty nice, solid little unit, and surprisingly how well. I mean, she's not a huge rider. I mean, once a week, every other week, whatever, recreational rider. But it's held up for all these years. Loves it. I'm not going to force her to get anything else. Then I have this guy. Recall cranks, just got called on them. They're coming back. Those are the Shimano Ultegra 11-speed cranks on this one, and also the Dura-Ace was on that too. I do have a video, but check Shimano website for any recalls on the Shimano cranks. The weird is the micro crack was kind of insane how very small it was that they were considering. And it's not actually in the aluminum part, it was actually the bonding agent goop that they had in there. It was what they called questionable kind of thing. So that was kind of weird in its sense. Maybe I have a picture of it. Let's see. Maybe I can find a picture of it. Show you people how so small, but such a big problem. I might have to find it later. I take so many pictures of bikes. It just kind of, oh, there it is. First, hold on, I gotta save them onto my desktop before I do that. Okay, so, all right, we're gonna do a little show and tell here. All right, so where you're looking on this guy is this is the inside of the crank, and there's this bonding agent what puts the two metal pieces together and it squishes out. Well, there was a micro crack through that Bondo looking material, and that's what they considered it to be under the voluntary recall from Shimano. So the guy's getting a 12-speed crankset with modified 11-speed chain rings that are Ultegra for new. So that's, it was right in, oh yeah, you don't see my, actually, are you seeing this? Yeah, you're seeing this. It's right, see that black, they had a little arrow. Yeah, I see the arrow right in the middle there. I don't know if I can zoom in or not, but in any case, that's what it's looking like. That's what it is. This little thing. And I was like, when I first looked at it, I didn't see anything. What I was looking for is where is delaminating, like popping thrum. It's like, well, they said they had those issues too, but that's actually another issues that they've been looking for and that kind of thing. So, any case. So yeah, I wanted to talk. Let's talk about what the title is, so people don't get really up it up, and talk about that. The Canyon. Bike shops hated Canyon, and bike corporations were mad about Canyon, and because they moved in the United States, they were direct to consumer. That was before Trek and Specialized jumped the bandwagon on that, and there lies your animosity against Canyon, and they made good bikes, a few $100s cheaper than Trek and Specialized. So you had that, and scared the pants off of Trek at the time because they did really well in Europe. So yeah, and this article basically is saying that they have to reduce their staff. After the COVID heartache, whiplash, whatever you want to call it, hangover from the boom themselves, they actually showed a couple profitable quarters. But yeah, this just shows and tells you that they're resizing, like Trek has been or leaked out last year of their company. Like all the companies are doing this resizing. And Canyon is definitely one of many. And they're trying to say it is not related because of the tariffs. Well, it could be related to our economical state, which is being really affected by the tariffs right now. So I'm not going to go in there that too much, but really, honestly, really just tired of talking about it. But in any case, but you're looking at a company, they're going to, basically change some of their teams, and some people are going to be let go, and then mostly in the people in the United States. This is going to happen pretty much, if not already, happen to a lot of companies. It's just because the demand's not there anymore. That kind of thing. But in the bottom part of this article, it does allude to, what I was going to allude to next was REI. And we're going to talk about that connection here in a second. But to wrap up with it, this is really just, are they in trouble? Yeah. Every company right now, if they're not in trouble, it'd be pretty amazing. There's most of them, most are not, have overextended themselves. The market has dropped on that higher end market. Everybody's looking for sell prices only, And then there's people worried about paying any money right now. And so with all those perfect storm scenarios, this hurts all these companies that Canyon does not have a little bit of accessories, but mostly just bikes. So they can't lean on like Trek and Specialized and Ponar on their service departments at their bike shops to generate some income or places to dump that or all that. They don't have that leverage. They don't have that opportunity. Basically, all they have in their quiver is cutting back on their staff and dropping the prices on their bikes. That's it. So to keep it sustained and going forward, that's what they're kind of stuck with. So in any case, that's what we're contending with, not just with Canyon, but when you looked at Specialized's release, I got a video on that, as well as, not Specialized, I'm sorry, as Merida released about Specialized as an investor, 30% of owning Specialized, they've lost a lot of money. And with that being said, they're just trying to figure out how to navigate through all that. And that is also in the Bicycle Retailer articles here. It's a few down. Terry is basically suing Trump. You know, that's a new release there. Brompton made it 50 years. There's a link below. Brompton's pretty cool. Crazy little clown bikes. But cheeky. I call them clown bikes. They probably hate when I say that. But then, you know, for us in the United States, but they're fun. I mean, you know, I have a customer, I did feature one of my videos. They're just fun. Okay, it's a couple news cycles back where companies like Parley, they're pausing a lot of orders, as well as some other ones. It's a different news cycle there. But in any case, going back to this, hopefully I'm not making too dizzy. Going back to the topic point is a lot of companies that are having bikes, parts, whatever, built overseas, that kind of thing. They're having a hard time. It's almost extremely difficult for any of them. There it is, REI. Scott. They're having a hard time forecasting what they're going to bring, what prices are. They just can't. They just can't. You know, they just can't. The case in point, one company which does sell a lot of units has actually downsized the units in the United States because most of their bikes are made in China, and therefore they've gone up in 20 to 30% right off the bat increases, and then projected unit sales are lowest it has been in the last 9 years. So you got things like that going on. So a lot of companies are hurting. Even if you're buying, a company is buying from a country that has a lower 10% tariff, it's still more than what it was. So you got those going on. Yeah, I didn't mean to go into that, but I did anyway. So therefore, you know, companies like Canyon and so forth they're doing some restructuring, which goes into more restructuring. REI, they're bringing in Rocky Mountain, which what was the other news? They were bringing in, Canyon. We were just talking about that. They were not bringing in Canyon bikes, but they were a service center, and they add more locations to their service group agreement or whatever. While talking to REI, one of their employees, they're like, we've always done service work for Canyon. So to them, it was kind of like just, they were already doing it. They already had that partnership. Now they're just releasing it to make it maybe more newsworthy or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they were just doing a test pilot and all of a sudden like, yeah, we're going to now be full-fledged, be a Canyon supporter, that kind of thing. Service goes in point. Even chain, big corporate stores are really leveraging service and other brands. Rocky Mountain, a brand that we love from Canada. Hey, Joe, this is one of your brands. Rocky Mountain, I've worked at a shop at Lee's here. They carried Rocky Mountains. They are fun bikes. They're a really cool company. And I never heard of Van Rysel, but apparently they're coming up on the scene. I have to do more research on them. But apparently they're bringing in a couple more lines besides their own co-op line. They actually have their own co-op line, as well as they carry some Electras bikes, which is the cruiser line stuff from Trek. Also, they carry Trek product as well as in shoes and helmets and parts and accessories. They had an accessory contract. They used to be under Bontrager, but now it's under Trek. And you'll see those products in the mix of their bike part of the store. So their case, REI is doing everything they can. Is REI in trouble? Absolutely. They've been pulling oh shit levers for the last year and a half. Some is they cut a whole bunch of execs in Washington. You know, the bigger up people cut them a few years back. They got rid of their Trek travel version of a venture kind of thing. There's an article in Bicycle Retailer about that. Of they've totally got rid of it. Like you can't reserve a bike hike adventure through them anymore. Nope, that's no longer part of their mix. Apparently they own like 3 or 4 of their own warehouses for distributing inventory across the United States. They own those buildings. They actually got an investment company to buy those buildings from them, and now they're renting to that investment company that purchased it. So basically to get cash flow. That was more recent. So therefore, they're doing everything under the sun to not go out of business. So that's what they're doing, and all those are telltale signs of what they're doing. At the retail level, they got really more stringent on their return policy, which kind of was a big fart in the church because they basically, if you return, a lot of people like buying stuff, didn't fit, return it, and if you got flagged, and a couple of articles locally, a couple people were like, we spent like $10,000 in the last 5 years at REI, and they all of a sudden tell us that we can't return anything. So that was a big oversight and over too much blanket or return policy change. I think they've retracted from that quite a bit. But in any case, that just kind of shows you the cracks and the signals of those particular companies having issues. For me, Schwinn was like that. We were a Schwinn dealer back in the 90s, and you saw things and you didn't really know why or what was going on, because now we have the internet. Everything gets kind of just thrown in you can find the information out quickly. But therefore, you're seeing a lot of cracks. And the weird thing is, to me, and they also are they sell bikes from Pond Holdings. I forget what brands, either I don't know if it's Cannondale or Santa Cruz, but they carry something from them. Then Dick's Sporting Goods on the flip side is showing profit quarters and year, I think. And Dick's Sporting Goods, if you don't know, it's the United States, but they're a sporting good chain as well. More on the sports side of it versus the adventure outdoorsy side of it, like REI is. Well, when you look at that, Dick's Sporting Goods is doing well, and they carry some of the Pond lines as well. So somebody's got a secret sauce going on, and somebody doesn't. Although they did open a new location in Loveland, Colorado here in an old Sportsman's Warehouse location. And I walked in there a couple weeks back, and well staffed, but that was the first time I walked into REI and I was greeted multiple times from the staff. So definitely there's been a change in behavior, or maybe the store I went to in Fort Collins is more snobbish. Can't tell that for sure, but that's not my experience personally. In any case, so therefore, that's your look at the Canyon, and also the Canyon REI partnership, and then kind of the REI how it stands. They're all kind of in the same. They're going to be looking for opportunities of leveraging each other to help navigate through the hardships they've been going through and going forward. And to sustain, they're all going to have to do that. So you're going to see a lot more companies, if they're smart, they're going to reach out to more other ways of trying to bolster their brand to help get in front of anybody that's willing to pay for any of the parts in the bikes as we're looking at. But in any case, that's what we're looking at there. All right, back to the chat list here. Precision e-bike. We have a new e-bike design. It is made in Schwischen. And I'm sorry, I'm horrible. Oh yeah, target the 4K retail price. e-bikes between 2 to 4, that's almost the norm nowadays. Oh man, yeah, when it's coming from there, it's gonna kill, yeah. But then again, it's like, well, how long is it gonna last? Wait and see. I mean, everybody's gonna wait and see. There's a huge pause button, like that order button from Staples, or was it from whatever? Now it's like pause button because of tariffs. Oh yeah, yeah, Joe. Yeah, I always liked Rocky Mountain. They've always been. They did make, and I think they still do make a gravel bike, which is more in my niche kind of thing. And they're a pretty good company. I know they had some little hardship. They had their own version of, I wouldn't say a bankruptcy, but it's kind of restructuring their funds. But they're still they're going to be strong. They're just like just basically telling their creditors and people are going out for money to take a pause. But hopefully they were able to navigate it out through it. The reason why I say I had good experience with them is actually the rep really had a good experience. The rep was really cool. That rep Rocky Mountain back in the day, and since Canada has medicine, basically doctors for anybody, that kind of thing. They basically, even though the reps were in the United States, they would pay for their health insurance 100% because it was just, that was the right thing to do, which was kind of cool, to take that extra step as a company to make sure your people are taken care of, which I mentioned in last Sunday's videos. Like, bigger companies, if they're, there's one of the things that they can't do without being so disruptive is basically, the one company I know of for sure, they took the CEO is basically furloughed his own payroll. He doesn't get a check anymore for a while until everything gets cleared out. So he's not making any money, and then all the upper management that make 500,000 plus have taken a pretty significant 10 to 20% cut in their salaries, to be able to sustain and not have to cut any of their employees. At this moment. So to kind of keep the company healthy, keep the teams alive, because they see the value in their team, because if they start cutting people, they're taking the hit first at the upper management versus the lower staff, which they all make pretty decent money, but it's a scenario where they don't want to lose anybody, because when they lose people, that loses the potential of making more money, and all of a sudden they're just in this spiraling effect and they're out of business. So they actually took the extra step and going forward of like, okay, we'll trim the top of the top without getting rid of anybody. And then people, I mean, I would assume that if you're making $500,000, you can probably take a little bit of cut for a little while and still not be disruptive of what all the stuff you own. I mean, at some point, you would think. In any case. So seeing that and not knowing what other companies are doing, not knowing what Trek is, Burke still taking a check, I don't know. But those are opportunities for those particular companies to do those things if they're more of a privately owned scenario like a Trek company versus specialized as a CEO or CFO or whatever, but they also have shareholders too. So I don't know if they're going to go through that mix. I have not seen anything of that nature. What I've just mentioned was from a different complete industry in itself, but as opportunity for companies like these in the cycling industry to take that direction. So we'll see if anything like that happens and so forth. And lastly, threw Scott on there because it was in there and it was kind of a stink from PC Performance. It was like, oh, they're going direct to consumer. Well, we talking about Canyon. This is nothing new, and Specialized did it pretty far out of the gate and tobaccoed it and really made a lot of their dealers mad. And now Trek did it, and they made a lot of their Trek dealers mad quietly. And now Trek dealers are probably in a position that can be a little more vocal about things, because Trek is just going to be really happy to have any independent bike dealers selling their stuff at this point, because it's hard for them and all of them right now. Anything that's selling new, because the only thing that's really driving any cycling market right now is used or e-bikes. Josh could contest that, as precision e-bike, but that is going to soften at some point too. And therefore service is huge, and used is just equally as big, because a lot of people can't afford the upper price tag items right now. And plus that market is completely softened. Therefore, we're in a scenario where we're in a weird situation. I mean, that's all I got to say. It's just kind of bizarre. And none of us has seen anything like this before. So there alludes just featuring those three companies having issues and doing some adjustments. And that's not just these guys. I mean, you can go through a lot of different, pretty much any news outlet that does cover cycling or anything outdoor or any industry at this point. They're going through a lot of adjustments, and a lot of them are mirroring each other in the sense of, Yamaha, they're cutting out some of their e-bike stuff. And then you look at, cars, their sales are softening and the costs of them are going up in the States. And it's just, people are, oh yeah, I want to talk about doom spending. Dun, 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 dun. Doom spending. I wonder if I could find that. I got a marketing email. I don't know if I saved it or not. It was kind of hilarious and sad at the same time. Okay. What was it? I don't think it was on that. But it was doom spending, which is insane. It's either competitive cyclists use it as an email campaign. I may have deleted it. I think it was. I don't think it was Jensen's. Maybe it was Jensen's, but like doom spending. Okay, I never heard of doom spending before. But what it is basically you're afraid of all your stuff going to get expensive, because the stuff that we have in the States now and the stuff that's in Trek and Specialized warehouses and Giants warehouses in the United States have not been tariffed yet, because they've already made it in here before those prices have gone up. So therefore the prices technically are supposed to be kind of the same right now. We have not seen that as much, although some companies have already adjusted their retail prices up to accommodate that. So, and unfortunately, that's more on the lower end bike markets, from the 3 to 5 to 600 already been, because they that's all they buy from. So therefore, they are trying to get ahead of it. Wholesalers that are particularly selling parts, chains, cassettes, and all that to a lot of bike shops, not me because I'm a guy in the garage, they're increasing their prices. I've heard so far before the show at 10%. Some of you guys can chat in the chat and say, you don't have to say who, but if you've seen an increase of any of your wholesalers, please say that kind of thing. So the doom spending is kind of, you can just say the percentage, like, oh, it's gone up 10% for chains, or it's gone up 25% for rubber. If there's a category thing, yeah, definitely put it in there. But in any case, what we're looking at is some people are buying cars. That's why I saw the thing on it. Was like, news story, I'm buying a car today because it's going to be like another $4,000 or $3,000 or whatever it is more, and that just pushes the people. So you have this weird influx of people buying stuff, which is going to be a false sense of reality or marketing or point. So you got that with bikes. So the bike I just featured, that Marlin, right? Same case in point. So the bikes that they decided to get on was, they're really excited about, and they're thinking they might keep these ones, is more of a gravel straight bar bike from Trek, and they're carbon, and they got them like $200-300 on sale still, because yes, they still have them. And let's put it this way, some of these some of these brands had like 5 years, rumor has it they had like 5 years worth of inventory, that kind of thing. So even though the inventory is here, there's still not people buying them, so they're still going to be on sale to finally flush whatever it is. So that's going to go to the second part of my conversation here, what's going to happen, which I allude to it on the conversation piece this last weekend. But the doom spending is the part I didn't get a feature on there because I totally forgot about it. But doom spending is this kind of a flux that people are just in that market, like, okay, I do have money still, I still have a job or whatever it may be. They're going to go out and they're going to buy the things they want ahead of the bigger ticket items before they become a lot more expensive. There is no sign whatsoever that anything is going to go down, and any market people out there, experts, have all said that once prices go up, even though the costs go back down, the prices still don't go down. So it's kind of like it's like moving the needle over, and they just don't. It doesn't go back. Food is different because that's one thing. But when we're looking at bigger ticket items like bikes and kayaks and skis and snowboards and kayak paddles, huh, Joe? I'm sure your prices, your prices are probably the same because you're in Canada. But maybe, some of the stuff that you buy, it comes from a higher tariff country to work on those paddles. It's like all those little things. It's like some things, I mean, I'm sure all your tools are not Canadian built, or I mean, your wood probably is sourced there because you guys have a lot of forests still. But some things that you may use in your shop come from different. And same here. I mean, some of the products that are used on working on bikes and so forth are split from various different countries, not all made in the United States. Some of the tools were, I think some of the park tools are made in the United States, and if not all, or some, but that may have changed. I really haven't kept up on it. But in any case, there's a cost to it. So if you're looking to buy like that $5,000 bike, auto bike lift to save your back, that might be $6,000, $7,000 by the end of the month. So you got a whole bunch of doom spending. So you got people who are like, oh, better buy this before it gets really expensive. So that gives you a big push in the market saying, oh, we're selling, retail is better, but it really isn't. It's basically panicking. Then on the flip side of all of this is the inventory they currently have. When you're talking about like Trek, Specialized, all those are the brands, even the the parts wholesalers, they have extra stuff as Ceramic, Shimano, and all that. That's going to eventually, even though it's on sale now, which I did get some stuff from Jensen's. I got some tires or Continental, they were on sale. Got a Shimano cassette on sale. Bar tape for like $15. Shelly bar tape for $15. Yeah, check out the Jensen's link in the description. For all this guy right here that I'm working on, I'm looking at the box of parts, and also about a bottom bracket from Trek, fixed, a press and fit to go with the new crank that's coming in from Shimano's recall. And then I got wheels, and I'll talk about the wheels. The wheels are actually cool because I know my general audience is 35 to 65 generation, and a lot of us have older bikes that are rim brake. So I have a great place for you guys to go. But in any case, so yeah, I mean, those parts are going to eventually sell through, which that 5 years of inventory is eventually going to sell through. And once that sells through, then all of a sudden it's going to get expensive because everything that's coming in is going to have more cost to them. And then that's going to bring the price up. And that's and before those all run out, most likely they'll stop that sale on those particular items, chains, cassettes, cables, housing, all that stuff. And then it's going to flip and it's going to get more expensive. All of a sudden that $20 chain from Ceram is now going to be a $25 chain. You're not going to see, I mean, you may see a little bit, but it may not be like, oh, well, it's not too much more. But the thing is when everything you buy has a 15 to 25% increase, from cat food to coffee to, tubes on your bike and a chain and your shoes and your clothes that you get for your kiddo at school, all that goes up, that adds. I mean, we look at our monthly budget, and it has increased pretty significantly, where we have to start doing some pretty decent reductions and be a lot more mindful of everything else, because we're going negative all of a sudden. So that's just us. Just imagine that compounded of all the other people that live in the United States, so that are middle class, that kind of thing. So when you're looking at the long-term effect of it's great time to buy now, doom spending, your price is going to go up in the long term. So therefore, here's how do you combat that? I mean, I hate to be scary, but here's the silver lining. There's a lot of things you do on your bike, and there was somebody mentioned in one of my videos, and he said, it's like, well, I have a 20-year-old bike, or a 10 or 20-year-old bike, and he did proper maintenance on it. So proper maintenance is all of us mechanics in this realm right now know that if you lube your chain and do your adjustments and all those things, or keep it waxed, that kind of thing, you extend the life of your drivetrain, and those consumables will be a lot less. The only thing he said, the costs on the increase, the only thing that was increased on costs, but yet still manageable, was his tires and brake pads. And everything else he was able to maintain and upcycle or whatever to longer. So as a bike shop, where this is kind of going to miff some people that are trying to do a lot of service, but in the sense though, I mean, there's going to be plenty of service to work on. But if you can self-maintain your bike, those costs on that full service later on is going to be less, or a lot of you have already done your own service. So if you're doing your own service, keep a mindful on those wear points and keep on top of it and ahead of it. Therefore, your costs for a year, this guy was like less than $100 a year on costs of maintaining his bike, and it sounds like he rides pretty avidly. So therefore, and then you can still leverage a lot of used market bits that are out there on eBay and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and so forth, in addition to other things of that nature. So there's a silver lining where you can do to try to help cut those costs down on your bike and still do a lot of riding. And again, you don't have to get the premium tools that we talked about before. You can get something that just works, but it's in, good shape that works. It's usually a good new tool is better than a high-end used tool. But am I high-end, or I'm just an old tool? That's what I am. Here's go with the tool jokes. So going to this guy, I want to read this, check this email real quick. All right. Oh, sweet. Okay. So, all right. For those, I'm just going to drop this link in the chat real quick. This guy is one of my, well, he found me on YouTube. Okay. And he likes my videos. He reached out, and he knows I refurbish bikes and do service on older stuff and so forth. Okay, I'm gonna lead into this conversation before I drop the link in the chat. I will put it, if you're watching on this replay, I'll put it in the description below. So I refurbish bikes, and I work on a lot of service, and I've done this for years. And okay, the industry has been changing. I've actually had a conversation with, I was at the tea store, and one of the former mechanics I was talking to, that we, pretty candid conversation about distributors are cutting older, new stuff, but that fit older bikes out of their inventory. That's part of their SKU reduction. So when you're looking at a higher end parts distributor, Q, and they're reducing some of their fitting pieces to bikes, where some bike shops, that's all they have is that one brand that comes in, or one distributor. They don't do the other 5 or 10 that are out there. So those lower end, you're not, for like, let's say you have a 1999 or a 2005 top of the line road bike with Dura-Ace or Ultegra on it with rim brake, road bike or mountain, doesn't matter. I mean, probably less mountain, but like, road bike or gravel or cyclocross bike or something like that, right? And you're like, this individual, he has Mavic Cerium wheels. This is the second set of wheels. This guy has like 20,000 miles on his bike. I mean, he loves the thing. So, but as a bike mechanic in any shop, I want a nicer replacement wheel. These are cracked. They cracked. So, shit, where do I find? I'm not gonna, I could find a used set for them, sure, but I don't really feel that comfortable about it. So what I'm like looking, oh, this guy needs like a nicer set, but not like high-end carbon, he doesn't really want that. He's like, dude, I'm 200 pounds. I like to ride. Don't care about weight. I'm worried about strength. That's the longevity of it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I had this guy reach out to me through a YouTube channel, and he works at a wheel building place in California. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like, oh, I might, check us out. We may be able to help you out with, the kind of bikes you're working on and so forth. Very soft approach, not hardcore or anything like that. Checked it out and went, oh shit, look at this. So, it was an eye opener. And what was really cool is not, I mean, he probably has some higher end stuff, but quite honestly, you can go to the website. I'll feature it here. Um, so this feels fill in that gap of where you have a nice older bike, rim brake, road, gravel, and you need to find a replacement wheel set, and you're afraid to go to the used market because honestly, wheels just get hammered, right? Um, let's see if this pulled up the right site. Okay, yeah, it's called Bicycle Wheel Warehouse. All right. And I looked at the stuff, and basically I was going through rim brake, right? And also the other caveat piece to this is 11 speed. So he has 11 speed drivetrain, and you can find 10 speeds because those are longer out there, longer with rim brake. But 11 speeds were the transitional type where when you're looking at a technical mechanical part of it as a mechanic, you're like, okay, that's one of the years when they went away from rim brake, and now all you're finding is through axle and disc brake stuff. You're like, shit, that doesn't help me at all. So I'm going through this, and I'm like, okay, he has rim brakes, cool. It's like, oh, you got some carbon stuff on there. It's like, oh, I don't know if this guy has a budget for $1,000 for a wheel set. And I kept on scrolling, and what I came across was like, okay, Mavic is like the no name of the older stuff. And it's like, oh, Mavic rims, okay. And then like, wait, there's drop downs on this. This is where it gets really cool in my little weird thing. So you can pick what hub you want, what they have available right now. At the time, they had Ultegra hubs. So I found 11 speed. So you got 105, so you can pick that. Of course, that's probably going to drive the price up maybe a little bit, it's like $30. And then you can pick what kind of spokes. Well, this guy has really a thing for having a bladed spoke. And if you don't know, that help, you mechanics know this, but everybody else out there, but spokes are usually a 2.0 or 1.5. And 2.0 is kind of the standard, or 1.8 is the thinner ones that are straight gauge. And spokes have all these different things. You have tapering to them, so they're called butted, so they're thicker on both ends. And this one's a bladed, so it's 2.0, then it blades to skinny to 1.5, then it goes to back to 2.0. A lighter weight. Basically, they have weights on here too, which is kind of cool. Then it tells you how much more it costs, and there's a cost equation to that. And and this is where I was like, okay. And this customer was like, "What's you have options?" And I was like, "Well, I could try to find some used stuff, but this is the 3 new ones I found. I found 2 wheel sets on Jensen's. We'll go there in a second here. But this is what I really got really excited about, because then you can pick out the spoke nipples. So he wants to go with alloy spoke nipples. Okay, yeah, that brings the price up a bit. Okay, from that teaser price, you can still get that if you want it with the low end, different name hub and what have you. But that kind of thing. But looking at a technical spec of this, it's like, okay, I spec'd it out, took a screenshot of it. It's like, okay, this is what I found, what we can get you for this price. But wait, there's more. Apparently there's a promo codes here that for anything over $5.99, which was that, I think it was, you got another 20% off of that when I went to go to check out. So I brought the price down. So, okay, you get a custom built. And these individuals, I've been emailing back and forth with the guy that works there, really cool guy. And he talked about experiences of building wheels and all this. And I said, is this rim good? And he was like, oh, they have another rim that's pretty decent. It actually is better, it's stiffer, and the idea of using the washers underneath the spoke nipple gets rid of the eyelet issue and cracking or possibility and that kind of thing. And therefore, we got a really cool set of wheels. So this puts me back in the day when we used to custom build wheels. We used to do like, Shimano, Ultegra, Dura-Ace, and back then the Open Pro Mavic rims were the go-to, because they were machined and eyeletted. And I remember my dad, we used to do double the 32 spoke hole. double butted spokes with Will Smith spokes, if you guys are into that. Now DT Swiss is like the other main brand. And we do all the spoke prep and tensiometer and all that. And back then is when you built a wheel from custom build wheel, it's like a very strong, out of the gate, ready to go ride wheels. And we really built a lot of wheels back in the day. And that's kind of been a lost art. But therefore, there's these guys that build them. They do have stock wheels too, which they hand build those as well, as to my knowledge. But the thing is that I feel a lot more comfortable with a stronger wheel. And when I was talking to the customer, because we were talking about doing that, or what's the other one? I took Jensen's. There was 2 other wheels. Clicked the wrong one. Let me see here. There were 2 wheel sets, and actually they're pre-built, and they're both Shimano's. And one was kind of like their Sora level, Claris level wheel. And yeah, pardon me, I was looking at tires earlier for this guy behind me, the old 970. Go through components, wheels, road. So they had like 2 choices that would fit this guy in a sense. They had a couple of the quality wheels, some quality. That is from Quality Distributor, I believe. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. The 2 are looking at were the Shimano branded. There it is. The RS 100, which is like your Sora Claris Shimano wheel. The other one I was kind of, if he didn't want to do, I didn't know really what this guy's budget. He said he had no budget, but he doesn't mind spending. It was kind of a joke. But these guys were on sale, right? For $375, like $100 off. And these are Shimano, basically 105 wheel set from Shimano. Okay, the only problem on this one that he didn't kind of like is it had less spokes. He wanted something a little more durable, true point. And these are direct pull spokes, which is not a problem with the bike shops to repair, but they're not as easy or not as many spokes, and there's more of a gap between them kind of thing. And they're a little harder to true, although they hold up pretty well. But that was an option. Actually, that's not a bad deal. I mean, for that. But it's like, is the weight savings going to be the biggest thing? Really not much, but he was not too concerned about that as much. He was more concerned about the strength of it, and being custom built, you are getting a little bit stronger wheel set. That being said, I mean, it's just one of those things. Is Robert, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Sorry, I'm a late delay. I didn't see the chat until I got back to not sharing. But in any case, I found it to be really cool to have an opportunity, or knowing somebody that does those wheel building. Because I've been told there's another company out there called Sugar Wheels, and if you have the through axle disc brakes and whatnot, a really nice high end carbon or something really strong, that's another people that build up wheels, and they've done a really good job. But nobody does the rim brake stuff. It's like it's a lost art, number one, and number two, it's just not readily available. But seeing these individuals taking on a niche of that pitch, and okay, I gave these options to the customer, and he got back to me. I think it was Thursday. He said, "Go ahead and pull the trigger," and it was later on Thursday. And I was like, "Okay." And then I had a couple emails with the guy, and then on Friday, I'm like, "Okay, let's go with the wheel that you were recommended, a little bit stronger. We'll do the custom lace, everything the same." He said, "Oh, we'll do the same price on that." Worked with me on that. Did great there. And then he goes, "Okay, we'll get them to you." And I asked him, "How long does it take to get them built up, laced up?" He's like, "Oh, only takes a couple days to lace them up." I'm like, wow, right? I was like, we're in spring, about in the hit of it. Like, you still have the flexibility of custom build up in a couple days and get them out the door. I just got the UPS tracking number just now as we were speaking. So that's what prompted me to go down this rabbit hole. But in any case, but yeah, it's like they're out of California. I read up on their website. It seems pretty. They don't have a lot of depth to like the story of the company and that kind of thing. They don't have that, but they do have like they build wheels and they have some preset ones. And when the conversations I had with them before through via email, it's like they have some clearance stuff, and it's like trying to see if he could leverage me to try to push some of the used stuff. The not used. I'm sorry. The stuff that's going out of stock, that kind of thing. Whatever to the reduction. Then he did say something about tariffs are making it really hard for them to try to figure out what they're going to do going forward. But needless to say, it was really nice to be able to see a place where you have an older bike that has rim brakes with a quick release, has an option to get a new wheel set built that is not obscenely expensive. I mean, that is a little expensive because it was custom up, but you can get the pre-packaged ones a little bit cheaper, like you saw. And therefore, you can have a good replacement wheel, a training wheel, or even a performance wheel built up, hand built, because a lot of shops don't, I mean, some still do that, but it's not like back in the day where all of us bike shops had a room where we had all the spokes and then we would do all these custom builds. And then all of a sudden the manufacturing of the high-end wheels from Mavic or Bontrager or Shimano or whoever, Reynolds or American Classics had these pre-builds, and wherever they came from, various other countries, go through the machines and tension them, were such high quality, it kind of pushed out the custom build need. But now we're kind of going full circle because those companies that make those wheels now only make the higher end stuff, and then wholesalers are dropping the lower mid-range stuff. Like Quality used to have a decent, Mavic wheels pre-built from Quality Wheels, their own brand, process, whatever, marketing you want to call it. But if they're canning those particular models or SKUs, where the hell is a bike mechanic be able to get a wheel set? Right here. And you can do a I mean, Jensen still has a few of the Shimanos, but those are going, once those are gone, they're not coming back, you think? Because all the new bikes are through axle, through the Dura-Ace and Ultegra 105-ish. So, Rick, thanks for joining. Weather's great in Oregon. It must not be your rainy season. Oregon's a beautiful state. If anybody gets a chance to go to Oregon, drove up the coastal highway there back in the 90s, and I just remember the ocean just being so beautiful, immaculate. I hear, cycling community out there is huge. One of my clients in Retail Toolkit was Bike Gallery. They had like 10 stores or something like that in the Portland, Oregon area, and I talked to those cats for a while when I was working with them for the management inventory. And I was part of a chain that was Truck San Diego as well as another shop in New Mexico. They sold to Trek Corporate, so I couldn't tell you how many of those stores are even still left after the Trek bought and probably liquidated a few of them. But in any case, Oregon is definitely a beautiful state, and highly recommend driving the coastal highway because they made it, a lot of it is more of a parks, national park type thing out there. So you can, it's just, the ocean's beautiful. It's just, that's a great place to check out. It's really, really naturey. Hint, a lot of people from Oregon are kind of naturey feeling. It's kind of like I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything. It's just pretty. It's really super pretty. But yeah, thanks for Rick for chiming in and making me remember Oregon. Very definitely beautiful state, and a lot of riders, and they ride in the rain. They do their fair share of all weather riding out there. So their bikes do take abuse, but they do ride. They do like riding. So that's awesome. Case in point. Anyway, well, we covered a lot of topics. Yeah, so if you're needing wheels, the replacement, and you don't want to deal with scare with used, the reason why I bring that up is even I have missed things when I bought you used wheel sets until I got it on the truing stand and cleaned them. Then you get into the perfect light and you see the hairline cracks, or you not know the bearing needs to be redone or replaced, or it's a press fit bearing. Can you get that bearing? Is it available? All those kinds of things. And in a wheel, I mean, you're looking at a lot of parts in a wheel. I mean, you got the spokes, you got there's not the spokes and the nipples and the rims and the hubs, and then the hubs itself has the bearings and the races and the cones and whatever else. And are they a press fit bearing, or are they loose ball bearing? Or then you have the rear wheel, which has a free hub body, which I have a Campanolo rear wheel, which I can't for the life of me find the free hub body for in the States. And it's like, okay, that wheel's done. I mean, because the free hub body has two sealed bearings in there that I can't get out. And if I did, I don't know what they're going to replace. It's one of those things that it's a time suck already. And I'm like, nope. But I found the customer a pair of Ultegra used wheels, which were really in good shape. So that customer is super happy. He's actually riding that Lightspeed, gold Lightspeed I was working on a couple weeks back. But in any case, that's what we got going on there. Yeah, Randy, everything in the industry seems to always come back around and get rebranded. Yeah. It's, that's where I think the used market's going to really kind of pop a little bit this summer. In a sense of, if you're trying to sell parts, specifically, like wheels might be a little bit harder to find for some of those older bikes. But when it comes to derailleurs and shifters and all those too, because like I said, some of those wholesalers are no longer bringing in those or carrying those stock parts to retrofit the old stuff, like a 9-speed or 8-speed shifters or derailleurs and that kind of thing. And there's plentiful amount of used inventory out there that even I are providing some of it. Because when I get a bike now, and this is the opportunity for like bike shops, is the used market, and they're really looking into that now because they know they can bring in a bike at a lower price point and not have to pay any kind of craziness except for the labor to fix it up and put it on the floor. And with that opportunity, some have always been shy of doing that because they thought it was easier to sell new. Well, now buying and selling new is harder, more expensive, and that bike, a lot bigger investment, sits there for a longer period of time. It's all about turns. So if you have a couple good mechanics and know how to work on older stuff, you got yourself a gold ticket of getting product on the floor that's going to hit the price points that are at today's market. So that's opportunity. I was talking to or emailing or message with Recycled Bikes, which is another channel on here. Interesting guy, kind of dry in his talks, but any case. And then I saw Grava Cycles. They listen in and also chime in. And he had a good thing about tariffs just recently, so I go to his channel and check it out. But I know his used market is probably kicking in. So here's the thing about used, and this is something that a lot of bike shops don't understand, or maybe not really dived into. Well, here's the thing. So, okay, you get a bike. In the bike markets, it's like for used, the prices have gone down quite a bit. You can buy a carbon bike for $300, and you're like, but still though, like I need to try to sell for $600, and if you have a sales floor, maybe $700, you can get the person in the door, that kind of thing with your traffic. You can sell it to them. But when they're looking on, like on Marketplace or whatever, they're looking at apples to apples, so it's a little bit harder to compete there. But even myself can do something like this, and have been done this and done it a long time ago as well. Okay, you look at the bike, right? It's $300, carbon bike, has Ultegra componentry, decent wheels, and then you go into the bike and going, oh man, it needs a wheel set. And you're like, oh, I can buy a new wheel set or maybe a refurbished wheel set or whatever, but that's putting more money into it, so my cost on that's going up, and my time and labor. And before you know it, I need to sell that bike to make even a margin on it. It's going to have to be like $900. That's going to be too much. Here's the switch, the flip. Part it out. Sounds like a chop shop thing, but it is. Take the frame, that $300, and say the wheels are bad. So those are gone. Or at least maybe the rear wheel's gone. Maybe you can sell the front one for $30. The frame you can probably, if you cleaned up and so forth, it's in a good tacked carbon frame, you can sell for $250, maybe $300, depending on the vintage. Like you just mentioned Klein, right, Randy? if you found yourself a good Klein frame, that's in good shape. I just sold a mountain bike Klein frame for $350 on eBay, just the frame. The other road bikes I sold is a Carbon Trek and a Carbon Le Mans, $250 each. That's most of my costs already taken care of by just the frame itself that I purchased those. Then you got the shifters. If they're in good shape and cleaned up and marketed, you can probably sell those for about $100. Crank set around 50. Brake set about 30. Rear derailleur, depending, 30 to 50. Front derailleur, 20, 15, 20 bucks. So if you have one of those golden ticket items on there, like some carbon bars, aero bars, which I had on one bike, sold those for 100 and something bucks. A seat, if it's a titanium fancy seat or one of those specialized, I don't know, one of those special saddles from Specialized, another 50, 80 bucks. So yeah, it's a lot more work on that end. This is for some for just average Joes. Like, I don't know how this bike and has some problems with it. And if you clean it all up and you do it yourself as an individual, as an avid cyclist, or those bins of parts that you've been swapping out bike parts for the last 10, 15 years of you buying bikes, and you just, bike mechanic keeps on giving you parts back. They're still good, but they're just taking up room in your garage. Click on eBay. I mean, granted, 15% goes right to them, but price it correctly. Then you can use Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist as well. I have my website, so I leverage that as well. So you got all those. Yeah, that's an opportunity for consumers that are riding and so forth to help offset their costs on riding their bikes, or maybe getting into a newer used bike or swap out parts. Then you got the bike shop perspective where they can leverage that as a business and provide those things. And again, if you're selling stuff on, some shops just sell off of eBay and that's it. They don't do it off their website or anything. But you can use, you can leverage your website as well. That's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, and it works great. Just saying, you can get it done, and it does work well for sure. Press fit bottom brackets for Klein. They had their own specialty tools back then. Going back to tools were full cycle. Sure, from the beginning, 2 hours ago, talking about tools and all the damn different fittings. I think Klein started no, he didn't start the whole problem, but there lies an issue. Yeah, you had to have the MC2 headsets. Remember those? Like all kinds of weird. That's before Trek purchased them. They canned that. They're like, we need to standardize that stuff for sure. Oh, Silver Falls State Park. Good recommendation. If ever I'm not neck of the woods again, I'll definitely check it out for sure. DDT, thanks for joining us. Tariffs make things expensive. Parts running. Yeah. The used market is definitely it's already flipped. And the prices, I mean, yeah, you think the used market would probably start going up, but there's still not much of a demand in general. So therefore the used market, and yeah, if you're checking it periodically throughout the day, I mean, I'm not on it all day long, of course, because I got work and stuff, but I check in the mornings, and sometimes in the evenings. Like, I just go through my list of, on Craigslist and Facebook and Marketplace, and see what maybe is new that may be populated, and if it's something that intrigues me, or something I want to feature on the channel, or something I know I need parts, or I know I can take a part out of bike. And if you're a shop, try one or two and just see what you get out of it. If it's worth it. I mean, it's one of those things that you can actually drive, or you got to repair, and you're like, oh, I'm looking for used shifters, and I can't find. This is what happened to me. I couldn't find any on the used market just for the shifters, but I found a bike that had the shifters on it, and I'm like, oh, I checked out the bike. The shifters were fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I parted out the rest of the bike. I made money on the shifters. Then I made a ton of money on the rest of the bike. I mean, not a ton, but more of a margin than you would on any bike sell. That's 20 to 30%. I'm talking about more 45-ish% at the end of the day. And so there you go. All right. Oh, we're top of the hour. We're crested already. Yeah, I got to have lunch and get ready for my customer to come and do a fitting, and then proceed on my day. The weather is getting warmer out there. It's actually jumped 10 degrees before I started this Shop Talk Tuesday. But then, thanks again. And if you just watching this on Facebook, welcome. I do these every Tuesday. I'm just now doing dual media at the same time. Bike mechanic doing weird things. Any case, on the comment or in the description below will be links to topics that we talked about, featured items, featured places. I'll go back and fill those in. And if you're watching this on a replay, sorry for all the advertisements. When you watch this live, it is hopefully ad-free. I hope you guys didn't see any ads because I didn't click the ad thing. I do that afterwards because it was kind of annoying. I understand that. So in any case, but yeah, and support my channel and so forth. You go through any of those affiliate links and you do end up buying something, which you don't have to, but just watch my stuff. That helps too. Just, go back and look at my library. Things we mentioned about the Shimano recall and ultrasonic cleaner earlier. Definitely check out that video. How well it cleans, parts and game changer, waxing chains. I will be bringing up more videos on the ConX chain itself, as well as featuring the Treks and also that if you guys were watching last week, I had a Fairlight in here, which is a Reynolds custom tubing made in England. Well, they're a company in England that makes them, and pretty phenomenal. He went on a ride this weekend on it with new SRAM Force ETAP stuff, and that was a phenomenal bike to build, and he loves it. It's like the sports car of gravel riding. He's the same guy that had the Tumbleweed, which I featured in a video a couple weeks back, and he said that feels more of like a touring-ish style, a gravel experience bike. He loves them both, so he was worried that it overlapped too much, but apparently they have such different ride styles to them. Sounds like he's going to keep both, so in any case. Randy, thank you for chiming in. We'll survive something. I hope to give some positivity out there. I mean, bike shops, independent bike shops, if they do the things right and they need to figure out what's right for them and their markets, leverage, listen, get into your community, pop those tents up and do some service work, free service, tune adjustments, whatever, on the bike paths on the weekend. Just get out there and do those events. That will help drive more business into your shop and just be known. Because people have been moving quite a bit, and this has always been the case. Depending, some areas move so much that the rotation of customers, you got to constantly reach out, which you probably already know. But there's grassroots to doing it without costing a lot of money, and therefore you can actually drive more service, drive more parts, accessories, consumable sales. Bike sales are just going to suck new bike sales are just going to suck for everybody for this coming year. I mean, it's just going to be, there might be a few shops that are anomaly, of course, but here in the States, they've really crippled us. So it's going to be, all those that are watching on the outside they may have better markets going on in Europe. South America is probably going to do a lot better. Asian market's probably going to do a lot better than us. So we just, that's just what it is. So here we are. But hey, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go over for a ride later with my daughter if she wants to go ride. Just do one of those family ride days, have a great time. It's all about having an enjoying experience, right? And again, check out information in the comments below. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for engaging in the chat. And if it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Thanks again. And it makes this channel. So I appreciate and enjoy every one of you. Thanks again, and have a beautiful day in the garage. Or from the garage. Anyway. More coffee. I got stuff to do. Oh, stuff. Good messaging, Randy. Appreciate it. Oh, whew. Yeah, oh yeah, Lamont. I'm gonna ride my Lamont.